Hi everybody, it's Matt here, a local friendly neighbourhood vestibular migraine sufferer. So just wanted to do a bit of a video today on a subject that tends to create conversation really within the vestibular world, as it actually does in the wider medical world. And that is the use of medication to treat vestibular disorder, vestibular migraine. So what I've tended to find in my discussions with fellow sufferers is that there kind of are two camps on this. There's the first camp that are quite supportive of the use of medications. They like it, they think it works, and you'll have the doctors and medics and neurologists who will prescribe medication to treat vestibular disorder. Then you've got another camp that tend to not like to use medications. They don't tend to want to become reliant on it, and there'll be those doctors who on that side who don't like prescribing medication, long-term medication for patients, and they tend to also gravitate towards more natural herbal sort of treatments for vestibular migraine and indeed other conditions, because this is not just in the vestibular world, you get this in other medical fields. So just to be upfront, I come into the first category, so I do like medication. I think it works, and I think it was an absolutely key component for me in my treatment program. So I just wanted to get that up front. I'm not here to say one side's right and the other side's wrong, or to start battle royale between the two sides. That's not what I'm about. I'm just here to just get that topic on the agenda, generate some discussion, and basically give you my perspective as to why I do fall into the medication camp. So when dealing with medication, I tend to get asked two main things. Firstly, does it work, which is completely understandable, and two, I didn't mean to swear at you then, but two, what are the side effects? So firstly, does it work? In my experience, yes, absolutely 100%. So if you've not seen my other videos, I'm on sertraline and propranolol, and those two drugs work together nicely to tackle the vestibular symptoms, so the photophobia, the derealization, the motion sensitivity, the weird head, all those kind of things. They also tackle the anxiety symptom that comes with any vestibular disturbance. It automatically creates anxiety in most patients. So it tackles both of those things, and it really, really was kind of like the nirvana, the key to my recovery. So yes is my answer to does it work, and two, side effects. So do those two drugs I mentioned give side effects? They do, but they're only very mild. I mean, it was with any medication, there's always a big list of potential side effects, let's just call them that. I've only experienced very minor side effects. So for the propranolol, it just changes the colour of your urine. I tend to like to call it piss because I'm from Yorkshire, in the morning only. And then the sertraline, that just tends to make me slightly thirstier, so I'll need a drink of water in the night, where I used to just go all the way through without needing to sup anything. And also can have a drowsiness element, but for me it's not noticeable because I take my medication in the morning. So even if there were drowsy side effects, I wouldn't experience them until bedtime, once it's worked its way through my system. And that's actually when you need to feel a bit drowsy, because you want to go to sleep without the need to watch the Christmas entertainment in the UK. And the final one is that sertraline just increases my body temperature slightly. So I notice that I tend to get slightly warmer in bed, for example, if I go on a walk or whatever. So, or it could just be that I'm smoking hot these days. I don't know. I'll leave you to work that one out. So they're the side effects. So yes, they work, and yes, there's some minor side effects. So I think that really the kind of the sort of the main anxiety or worry people have about medication, I think, in my opinion, based on my conversations with vestibular sufferers, is worry about the side effects. So I understand it, I get it. Nobody wants to read the back of a medication they're thinking of taking and seeing that it will, mean you'll grow two heads, or that your penis will fall off, or that you'll shit yourself every day, every hour, every day for forevermore. Nobody wants that, and that's totally understandable. So you kind of face this kind of sort of dilemma, don't you, as to, is it really worth me taking that medication to get my vestibular system right, but face these other, side effects, these other horrible symptoms? So I've got two tips to deal with that. The first one is to heed some advice I was given by my GP, the great man, Dr. Jez McCall. So he said, when it comes to choosing medication, just don't look at the side effects. And I know, heartburn side effect, no, it's just have eaten a sandwich. So I know that's hard because humans are curious creatures, and we'll always want to look at, ooh, what does it mean? Spoiler alert, we want to see what potential side effects I could have. And I do understand it as well, if it's going to end up you growing two heads, you want to be aware of that. But his tip was to not really get fixated on the side effects. And the important thing to remember with side effects on the back of the box is, if that drug was given to 2 million people, if just one of those people taking that drug experiences something slightly odd as a result of taking that medication, it has to be reported on the back of the box. So but if you need to take a step back and think, well, actually, that's 1 in 2 million people experience something. So around the world, there's always going to be some human somewhere that has a slightly odd reaction to some kind to a medication. We're one, but we're not the same. There's always going to be those slight nuances and differences in our bodies and makeup. It's just like some people are allergic to penicillin, some people aren't, but the majority of people aren't. It's just the same with medication. So always bear in mind that if it's on the back of the box, it doesn't necessarily mean you've got any kind of likelihood of experiencing that side effect. So keep that in mind. Kind of my second tip, which didn't come from Dr. McCall, but it actually was my own thinking. I managed to think logically during the chronic phase for odd moments, which was unusual, but I did. So what I did was I got my dad to actually look at the pros of taking the meds. So how will it work with me to get me feeling better, and then to look at the side effects and do that for every potential med that I was potentially could have had, and then give me his assessment of which one he felt there were enough pros and the cons weren't overly bad. So there was nowhere it said that I was going to grow two heads. And what that meant is that I never actually looked at the side effects for the drug. So I didn't fixate on it, because when you're feeling poorly, and particularly when there's an anxiety element, as we know there is with vestibular migraine or disorder, you'll start fixating on that side effect you really, really don't want to happen or to occur. And then your body can start tricking you into actually thinking that side effect is happening to you when it's not. That's how the human mind works, unfortunately, particularly when it's anxious. So by doing what I just suggested, you're negating that from happening. You don't actually see what the side effects are, so you can't self-fulfill them via your anxiety. So they're the two kind of tips I would give when it comes to sort of managing the side effects thing. I think kind of the other issue that tends to come up with medication, and again, it's not just limited to vestibular conditions, it tends to be across the medical spectrum, is that people tend to they want to come off medication. They don't want to be on it. I don't know where it's kind of crept. I think it's come into more of the modern age, and I do get that there has been the odd medication out there that's caused people problems long term. But I think the important thing to remember is, in my opinion, that is quite rare. Although I could be proved wrong. I'm not an expert on it, but there definitely tends to be a bit of a zeitgeist as to, I don't want to be on meds. I really don't want to be on meds, and I don't know what it is. Obviously, as I said there is an element of worry because we've seen the odd horror story in the media, and I think I do wonder sometimes whether people see it as a sign of weakness, like, oh, I can't cope without medication, that means I'm not as good a person as Joe Bloggs down the road. Bullshit, it doesn't mean that. So my kind of approach to this is, if you want to come off medication for your own reasons, fine, that's up to you. I'm not saying that's a bad thing or you're doing the wrong thing, but in my opinion, if you found a med that really helps with this god-awful condition that is vestibular disorder, I would stick with it and stick on it. So think of it this way: if somebody, maybe your grandparents, your parents have got something like, dodgy blood pressure, so high or low blood pressure, once that's diagnosed, you go on to medication, and that medication then fixes the issue, essentially. That's what meds do, they fix the issue. It's science works. So they don't then say, whoa, that medication I've been on for blood pressure, it's been really, really good. I didn't faint at the supermarket, I can, go hiking again at the weekend. I'm going to come off it next week though, or I want to come off it. Why come off something that's working? So basically, unfortunately for us, just like the folks with the blood pressure issues, we've got vestibular issues. It's just the luck of the draw. It's just life, isn't it? So I accept that I've got a vestibular issue, but I also accept that actually to get my vestibular system working properly, I do need support via medication to just make it work as it should. So we want to stabilize the waves and keep them stable. So I accept that long-term medication is a way in which I can do that, and I'm quite happy to go along with it. I don't think, oh shit, at some point I need to come off this medication. I just don't think like that. I think it is a series of medium terms anyway in life. I know everybody's different, and I think the meds are doing me a lot of good. It's not an issue with my GP. Fortunately, he's very supportive. So we had a conversation just before Christmas. He's happy for me to continue on the meds. There was no drama, no pressure for me to come off them. He knows they're doing good. They clearly are doing me good. I've been in remission now for quite, I don't know what it is now. Nearly not mega far off a year and a half. So it's doing me good. So I think always keep that in mind, that the meds are actually fixing something that's wrong with you. So it's okay to be on them. I'd rather, be on a medication for the rest of my life and not sink back into the chronic phase of vestibular. And I don't give two shits about what Joe Bloggs is doing down the corridor, down the road, whatever. And I think just to add into that as well, I kind of touched on it a bit, is I am, if you remember the lost episode, man of faith, man of science, I do edge towards science. I'm not saying I don't have faith in anything, don't get me wrong, but I do edge towards science. So I naturally kind of try to go with practical solutions. So if something's wrong with me, I'll think, right, I need to get it checked out, I need to get it tested. What do I do to get it better? What meds is there to do it? So that's how I think. I am the blunt Yorkshireman after all. Not everybody will think that way, that's fine, but so that's how I do it. So when it comes to science, I have a lot of faith in science. I know science tends to work. So for example, medication was created to make us feel better through scientific advancement. That's what it's there for. That's why I am quite happy to take it, and I think that's something to bear in mind. So just think about, science, it's all around us. So to get into orbit, scientists worked out that we need to actually have enough thrust and enough engine power to offset the pull of gravity back to Earth. And once you actually reach a certain point, you can push into orbit, and you've broken that, the gravity barrier to stop you from falling back to Earth. And you get, that made me jump. I think there was a plate that fell. And you've broken that barrier to get into orbit, and that's all science behind it. And so that same kind of scientific methodology is around medication, the human body. That's how science has helped fix us humans, get us humans better, hence why we're living longer lives and on the whole are healthier than we were 100, 200, 300 years ago, etc. So they're kind of my main sort of tips and discussion points about medication. The one thing I will say, if you are in the camp of wanting to come off medication, do be really, really careful. Don't take unilateral action. Consult with your doctor, your ENT, your neurologist first, because the one thing you don't want to happen is to come off that medication after being doing okay, getting more back to normal, and then see to plummet right back down to back into a chronic phase. My brother made that mistake, unfortunately, a few years ago when it came to his illness, and it was the worst decision he'd ever made, because he just sunk straight back into where he was, if not even worse actually than where he was before. And it took him quite a long time then to recover that. And he always says, if only I'd not come off the meds I was on, because they were really helping him. So just keep that in mind. So they're my main talking points, really, my main tips. So as I said, don't get overly hung up on side effects. Keep in mind that unfortunately your vestibular system just doesn't work quite as well as someone else's, so you might need a bit of meds just to get that straightened out and fixed, just like the blood pressure folk. Science, keep in mind science. Meds are a result of science, and science is a good thing that has advanced us and meant we can fix diseases. And yeah, just try and chill out if you can when it comes to medications. Just try and relax a bit. They're there to help us. They're not actually there to make us feel shit or make us feel make us feel crap about ourselves. So I guess all in all, you could say I like the drugs and the drugs like me. So there we go. So hope you're all okay out there. I hope you got some normality at Christmas. I didn't really. It was rubbish up here really in the north of England where there's lockdowns, but we are where we are, aren't we? So hope the video is useful. Feel free to comment below and start the discussions. And if you need to get in touch with me, let me know and we can hook up on Instagram or Facebook or something like that. So Remember, as you were, you'll be again. See you later, guys.